He's got a commitment.
We discussed this at our pre-trial. So the commission members know Mr. Fry's calling Mr. Ireland, and we agreed to allow him to be called out of order because he's got a commitment.
Would you please stand and raise your right hand? Do you promise to tell the truth?
Yes.
You solemnly swear to tell the truth? Thank you.
Could you tell the commission your, could you tell the commission your name and occupation, please, sir?
My name's Kip Ireland, and I'm the owner of Professional Claims Group. It's an ambulance and chiropractic billing company.
And how long have you owned an ambulance billing company, sir?
I've had this one for 3 years.
And before that, were you involved in another company that did similar work?
Yes, yes,
And how long were you involved with that company?
7 years.
Now, in 2010, did you have occasion to do some work with the Clinton Fire Department with regard to documentation for emergency medical services?
Yes.
Can you just tell the commission what you did?
I was asked to come in to discuss issues about proper documentation for the ambulance services. I've been doing this for about 10 years. So most of the classes that I give, I've been in 4 different states, spoke at the Iowa EMS Association conventions, and so most of the classes are based on what you see, what you hear, what you feel, and just a proper way of doing documentation for ambulance services.
And did you do that for all the shifts at the Clinton Fire Department?
Yes, I did.
Do you know who arranged to have you come and do that documentation training?
Andy McGovern.
And did he tell you the reason that he wanted you to come and do some documentation training?
First of all, he wanted to polish it up. He wanted to make sure that the guys understand that the importance of documentation is necessary, so he had me come in and do that.
Show you the last page of Exhibit R, R13, I believe. Yes, Exhibit R13. And can you just tell the commission what that is?
The last line.
No, what is the last page here? This document called Emergency Medical Service.
Oh, the
Pre-hospital
pre-hospital
form
form class, yes. Yeah, I sent this to Andy. They needed my credentials so they can get CEUs for the class.
And is that basically an outline of what you were going to teach in that class?
Yes.
How did you find the members of the Clinton Fire Department in responsiveness and interest in your class?
Very responsive.
What was your impression of the Clinton EMS service and the paramedics in the fire department when you were here?
I was impressed.
Why is that?
They've got protocols for documentation that I've never seen any other ambulance service that I've dealt with in the past.
And what do you mean by protocols?
There was a documents that Andy had showed me. This is information that he has given to his members of the ambulance department, step by step, what they need to do. In fact, it was more impressive than what I give these guys.
Did you keep a copy?
Yes, I did.
And what are you using it for now?
I'm going around telling other ambulance services that they should seriously start using what these guys use.
Do you see in Exhibit R12 can you see that all right?
Didn't bring my glasses.
Maybe I can help.
Probably hurting.
Oh, those look good.
Try those. A little older than you, but they do help
Oh,
me.
that looks good.
All right. Would you, there's several policies here. Would you look through that Exhibit 12 and see if the policy that you're talking about is in that exhibit?
Professional claims.
Very detailed, very nice. References look really nice. Pretty cut and dry. You got your purpose, the scope, and the guidelines.
You're looking now at policy number 100.22, which is incident documentation, patient care reporting. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes.
And that policy was dated when?
Effective May 28th, 2010.
Okay.
Yeah, like that. If I would, I mean, this is kind of the stuff that I teach the guys and gals, but words like drunk, words like the patient stated, we go over this over and over and over and over and over again with paramedics and EMTs. They have to be very specific, but they also have to be making sure that they're not saying that they're drunk or that there's ETOH on board. A lot of EMTs, if they put down that the patient had ETOH on board, obviously they had to do a blood draw to get that actual chemical. Well, they understand now they have to state whether or not the patient was drunk by stating, patient states, I was drunk. So I mean, this is really nice how they got it all laid out.
You're looking at page 2 of that patient care report policy in paragraph 2, the second bullet point.
Yep, that is the PCR factual or objective. That's a big part of the class that I give is making sure that the paramedics and EMTs understand that they have to be objective and not to think, oh, you know, just because he's staggering, just because he smells fruity or smells like he's been drunk doesn't necessarily mean they're drunk, because there are some patients that are diabetic, and when they're low sugar, they smell and look like they're drunk. So you've got to be very careful and be very objective. This is very good stuff. I wish I wrote it. Yep. Thank you. You're gonna need these. You're older than I am.
Now, in your experience, would you characterize then the Clinton Fire Department as very professional?
By far one of the more professional groups I've ever dealt with.
Was it your impression that the Clinton Fire Department was interpreting the rules and doing the best that they could?
When you're going to a Page, Wolfberg, and Worth class, and you're going to every class possible to better yourself in documentation, better yourself in billing, that's doing the best you can.
if you're aware that the Clinton Ambulance Service is a 911 responder, is that correct?
Yes.
They sometimes, infrequently, but and most of the time, their runs are in response to an emergency call.
Yes.
And under those circumstances, you're aware that there's also another provider in the community that typically handles the non-emergency calls. Under those circumstances, and based on your experience as an ambulance biller, would you have an estimate as to the range that you would expect the percentage of the Clinton Ambulance Service calls to be ALS as opposed to BLS?
This is a paramedic service. It's ALS. When I talked to Andy a couple years ago, he wanted to know what my company could do for their ambulance service. And I kind of gave him an idea of what I think we could bill and collect for them. And based on what I saw in the community, it's a higher than state average, 65 years of age and older, and it was also a higher poverty level. Based on that information, I was able to really get close at what the percentages should be, and 75 to 80% of the calls should be ALS, simply because when you've got 65 years, by the way, I'm an EMT, I've ran with 3 different ambulances over the last almost 11 years now. So based on my experience in seeing that, and based on the experience in billing, when you've got 65 years of age and older, they're gonna have more medical problems than somebody that's 35 or 25. So you can say that if the average is higher in this area, then you're gonna have more ALS calls. So based on that information, I was overwhelming with the information that I saw. So I looked at it and gave a really good guesstimate that it's gonna be about 75-80 based on what I've seen in other towns.
So you'd be very surprised if it was as low as 70%.
Very surprised.
And Clinton, as I understand it, recently asked for proposals for billing companies to come in and do their billing. I gather since you're in the business, you consider it a wise decision for a fire department or for a city to hire a professional biller?
I believe it was 2004 or 2002, I had contacted Andy and asked him if they'd be interested in doing an outsource. And he had stated that, yes, this is something that we need to do. Because based on my experience seeing cities like Chicago, for instance, outsource. When I saw their RFP, it was that thick. So it's very important, just like Wolfberg says, it's very important to outsource this stuff because you need the professionals in the insurance care business if they understand that kind of stuff, so yes.
Are you familiar with medical dispatch?
Kind of, yes.
Are you familiar with the ALS assessment rule, what I refer to in shorthand as the ALS assessment rule?
I'm really not familiar with that area, no.
Okay. I believe that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Goat?
Mr. Ireland, can you tell me What determines, for Medicare purposes, who is responsible for the accuracy of submittals?
The person that signs the name on the bottom right-hand side of the, on a HICVA, but whoever signs the document.
And that would be the Medicare contract document?
Yes.
And with regard to final decision to suggest ambulance coding, whose responsibility is it for that?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Whose responsibility is it to make the final decision on coding for an ambulance bill?
That's whoever's in the protocol. There's a lot of different people who are responsible for that information, so really it should be in the protocol.
Okay. And for the final submittal to Medicare, whose responsibility is it to choose if there's issues?
Issues like this code doesn't work, it really should be the billers.
Is it common for a EMT paramedic to put a code down that may be inaccurate and a professional biller will change?
This is about as plain as I can get. I've been lucky enough to have almost 125 ambulance services that I've helped do billing. There was only one that actually coded. And I tried and tried and tried to tell them to quit because they were always putting down the wrong codes or they weren't updated on the information, but the administration just decided that it was their responsibility, but out of 125, they were the only one.
When you provided your most recent documentation class to the Clinton Fire Department, did you review all 3 of the updated documentation policies from May of 2010?
Did I update them?
No, did you review all 3 of the updated policies that the Clinton Fire Department put into place?
To them, or just
For
to me?
yourself?
Yeah, I reviewed it.
Okay, because you spent most of your time on the examination discussing the patient care report documentation, correct?
Yes.
There was also an additional one on incident documentation, and there was one on incident documentation for NFIRS. Can you tell us what NFIRS is?
NFIRS? No.
Okay.
That is one acronym I cannot remember,
Okay.
and we have a lot.
You testified about expecting a 75 to 80% ALS. Was that for the entire area, or was that just for the Clinton Fire Department's emergency ambulance
That was
service?
just for Clinton.
And when you say just for Clinton, is that both for the fire department and the additional secondary backup system medic, or is that just for the?
Just for the fire department.
Are you aware of an audit process that Mr. McGovern instituted or implemented in the Clinton Fire Department to review documentation before it is forwarded to the Finance Department?
An audit, an internal audit?
Right.
No.
Okay. Do you believe that it is appropriate for a fire department to have such an audit process to make sure the most accurate documentation is forwarded to the ultimate billers?
Yes.
And why is that?
You gotta make sure that one hand understands the other hand, especially in a larger group like this. If you've got the ambulance department trying to communicate with the billing department, if there's no protocols put in place, if you're not following those protocols, you're looking for a lawsuit.
And should the billing department itself have its own auditing process?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Why is that?
Again, in the other company that I had, we had 2 external audits that we did, and we just wanted to be professional about it. Because we can get in trouble.
do you suggest that there be controls in place for internal review of billing processes, just to make sure that things are being done properly?
Yes.
Do you know of any such controls in the finance department at the Clinton, City of Clinton?
No.
That's all I have.
Mr. Soup.
Were you aware that the Clinton Fire Department bills 95% or above ALS?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Were you aware that the Clinton Fire Department bills ALS rate at 95% of their runs?
Later on, yes, I did hear about that.
How long have you been consulting with the Clinton Fire Department?
Consulting.
Training, consulting?
Since the summer. This summer I was.
You've never
asked
been involved in training before?
Training.
Clinton Fire Department?
No.
Other than in 2004, where you talked to Mr. McGovern about hiring your firm?
Yes.
To do officers, okay. And in what context was that? Was that at a seminar, or what was that?
No, I just cold call.
Had you known Mr. McGovern before that?
No.
The documents that you reviewed, R12, Exhibit R12, from May of 2010, how did they change the protocols that were in place or the policies that were in place prior to this? Do you know? Had you ever looked at those? Anything before?
Just when I showed up to get the class.
These are the only things that you know?
Correct.
Have you done any review of patient care reports that were done by the fire department, anything like that?
No. That would be a HIPAA violation.
Would you, is it usual, you said you've worked with what, 125
Yes.
cities? Okay. Do they keep 2 records of patient care reports, or is there usually just a 1 record?
The patient care reports can either be sent to us electronically. Obviously, they keep their own. You can do that on a piece of paper that can be faxed, scanned, submitted. So yes, they keep their own records.
Okay. And why would they have 2 versions of patient care reports?
Because it's still their document, and they're giving us permission to do the billing, and we need that information to do the billing.
Right, but I'm saying 2 different versions of the same run.
No, it would be the same run.
There wouldn't be 2,
No,
just separate.
no.
In these other cities that you've worked with, do they all hire you, right? I mean, the ones you've worked with that hired you as the outsourcing billing agent, is that right?
Correct.
And in those cases, who, how do you get that? Where does the information come from? The patient care reports and the other documentation for ambulance runs. Does that come from the fire department or the finance department?
Both.
And do you have, and in those cases, does the finance department then review these before they send them to you? Or does the fire department review these before they send them to you, or do they just send them cold?
It depends on the service. Some services have taken their documentation and handed it to the city clerk, then the city clerk faxes it to us, or the ambulance department just faxes it straight to us. So there's a lot of different ways of doing it.
Okay. And in those instances where the clerk is faxing that to you, does the clerk then review those records to make sure that the patient care report and their narrative, it matches the level of care service, anything like that?
No. Not that I can recall.
In those instances, they're assuming that the fire department has sent accurate reports.
Doing a run report, the city clerk wasn't there, the administration wasn't there. It was the EMT or the paramedic that was there, filled out the run report, and then it gets sent to us. Some of them don't have the resources to fax it out of there, or scan it and email it, or to put electronic data and submit it to us. So, you know, you got some smaller services and you got some larger services. So I was gonna say the larger services, I don't know of too many administrative people in the city that actually touch it and say, you know, because they're not EMTs, they're not billers. So, and if they're, and I have seen it in some situations where the people in the city did the coding and sent it off, and I found so many mistakes, so they decided that that's not a wise place to go. And they're just honest mistakes because they haven't learned, they don't have the resources.
I have no further questions.
Mr. Fry?
The one department that you mentioned that did their own coding, that wasn't Clinton, that was another department.
That was another department, yes.
Thanks, that's all.
No,
Commissioner?
that's all we have. Mr. Supel.